the passage of time, we have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your healthcare needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in healthcare.
First item is our approval of our agenda. And we got some items for consideration for consent.
Mr. Mayor and Board, for possible consideration for consent agenda items, on the second page, Mayor's Business, Roman numeral 9, item A, and item C. On the next page, page 3, Roman numeral 10, items D and G.
You want to make a statement?
You were going to say something about that.
On G, we have listed as a fact-finding trip to Auburn, but we may also, I would like to recommend considering we put in an and/or there for Hattiesburg for a future date, and this is not don't have a time specific, but just wanted to go ahead and have us start working on that.
Roman numeral 11, Department Business, Airport, items 1, and then item 3, with the addition to item 3, of accepting the low bid of Renrock Construction Company in the amount of $474,318. Adding acceptance of the low bid of Renrock Construction Company, the amount of $474,318 for that project. I understand that item 3 under C, Office of the City Clerk Budget Amendment, has been scratched for tonight.
Yes, sir.
What about items 1 and 2, can they go?
Items, let's see, item 2 certainly can go, I would think.
All right.
Page 5, Fire Department, items 1 and 2. Sanitation Department, K, items 1 and 2. So those for your consideration for inclusion on a consent agenda. Is everyone agreeable with those items? Anything else you wish to add or delete?
What about item B? Trying to shorten the agenda. What about item B on page 3 about the false alarm? We need to discuss that. I mean, anything we need to discuss on that?
Well, we talked about that, Roy. And,
I'm just asking, and
and the reason we left it on there, not
Yeah.
consent, was that we feel like it might need to be some publicity.
Yes, sir.
If we just bring it up
About
and
having
have
a
little
hearing.
publicity.
Yes, sir.
for it.
Yes, sir.
That was the sole reason,
Okay.
otherwise certainly
All
could.
right, okay.
So I would move adoption of the agenda for tonight with those items moved to consent and modified as indicated.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the City of Starkville Board of Aldermen recess meeting of April 15th.
Mayor and Board, I'd move approval of the minutes April 15, 2008 with the corrections provided.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Brings us down to announcements and comments, and I would like to congratulate Mrs. Self tonight for being the city's representative on the IHL board for the search for the new president. She will do us a good job of that. I'm convinced of that. I'd like to congratulate, did you have anything to do with this grant that we're getting for the airport, you and Rodney?
We certainly participated in discussion and so forth, and
Well,
we would
that's-
like to think that we might have had something to do with it, but not necessarily.
We've done very well in our city with grants for the airport. This one is $315,000, then we just approved another one that is in process. That total amount's right, $13,000, in which this will be added hangars for those that'd like to locate. The first one, $315 for added hangars to keep up the aircraft located at Bryant Field, those that want to do that. Today, the city had a historical moment in which we had our first administrative hearing today in pursuit to the new ordinance passed by the board authorizing an administrative hearing officer to handle the various city ordinance violations. And I think y'all had 41 issues, is that correct? In which it started this morning at about 10 o'clock and went on to close to lunch, I believe, 11:30. So again, that another historical first for the city of Starkville, the first administrative hearing officer in the state of Mississippi to take minor cases. I see that we have young Boy Scouts in the back here. We appreciate your attendance and your interest in city government, gentlemen. So I encourage you to come forward to other meetings as well. At this time, we open up our.
Let me add a comment.
Okay.
Those members of the board that are on the recycling committee have agreed to a meeting of the recycling committee at 4 p.m. next Wednesday, 4 o'clock next Wednesday, here at City Hall, in this room or the conference room, depending on availability. And Ms. Tyndall will so notify the members of the committee. Thank you.
Yes, citizen comments. At this time, you are allowed 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board. No, this is something else.
Oh, this one?
Yes, thank you. Although I will take your moral support on this thing, thank you.
Sit down, Ron, I'll call you in a minute.
That's okay, he thought I was jumping the gun.
Right.
I'm Milo Burnham, and I live in Long Meadow Subdivision, Ward 2, which is the home of Alderman Rodney Lincoln. Got a statement that I prepared that I'd like to read to you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the board. I read with great interest the article entitled "Developers Seek TIF Bonds to Help Revamp Highway 12 Properties" in last Saturday's SDN. We've been reading a lot about TIF bonds. But according to the article that appeared in the Starkville Daily News, Mark Castleberry, Sean Cone, and Jason Perry seek to revitalize the State Shopping Center and the old Coca-Cola property by reworking retail space and adding a hotel and restaurants. And I think personally that this is just great, and I hope it goes. Long Meadow subdivision backs up to this proposed redevelopment, and what better time than now for the city to work towards the rehabilitation of this prime residential area. Long Meadow subdivision has the unique qualities of being the only subdivision in the city that has direct footpath access to McKee Park and the Sportsplex. And we know what's going into the development of that area. Long Meadow is also just across Louisville Street from the high school, and this makes it a desirable address for young families with children. Long Meadow is only a short distance from Starkville Academy and could have ready and safe access with the development of sidewalks and a bike path. Long Meadow has access to Highway 12 through Willow Road, and with the development of sidewalks, bike path along Highway 12 provides a safe connection to all retailers on Highway 12, both east and west. For much too long, the city has neglected Long Meadow subdivision and allowed its infrastructure to deteriorate. What Long Meadow needs from the city is not only a commitment to work towards its revitalization, but the actual physical improvement in its infrastructure that will make it a more desirable address and more appealing to residential buyers than buyers seeking cheap housing to rent to students. Long Meadow needs its streets rebuilt so that it is safe to walk along the edges and not just down the middle of the road out of fear of falling into a pothole or falling off the edge of a crumbling curb. Long Meadow needs its water system and lines fixed with the goal of eliminating the frequent breaks and loss of service from a deteriorated system. And Long Meadow needs its utility lines buried to enhance the aesthetic appeal of this potentially choice residential neighborhood in conjunction with its winding roads that could be so desirable for walking and cycling within the city. I hope that you'll take this into consideration and that those of us who live in Long Meadow subdivision and in the city will see something done to take this prime piece of residential neighborhood and help to revitalize it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening to Mayor and Board. My name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. The citizens just was a little furious at listening at the last meeting. They do not take kindly of being a doormat of someone guilty conscience. Last night we had the ability with a $9 million project to have the judge complex and the court, but then it was killed. So citizens do not like to be watched with something that was an opportunity and we lost. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll move along. We have 3 public appearances this evening. The first is a presentation by Jeremiah Dumas and Ms. Kendall.
Hold down the power.
We went right to it, didn't we?
Yeah, it's warming up.
All right. Mayor and Board of Aldermen, I'm Jeremiah Dumas. I am the chairman of Starkville Community Market, and I'm here on behalf of Tammy Tyndall, who's the market manager for the Starkville Community Market. And I'm here to do a couple of things. One is to catch you up to speed on who we are as the Starkville Community Market, and then ask of an in-kind service. So without, in respect of time, we're going to move through this. We have started this process about a year ago, and one of our guiding tenets was the Project of Public Spaces, 10 qualities of a successful public market. These are proven worldwide, and these are tenets that we have used, and we feel that we have covered the basis with these fairly thoroughly. And without going into several of these, one thing I want to draw your attention to is the right public space. We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about the right management here. When I talk about we, this is who we are, the Board of Directors. As you look through, you see myself as the chairman, Tammy Tyndall, who's the manager. The rest of these are all made of individuals who have considerable expertise in existing markets and working with markets all over the country and even worldwide in some of the instances. Our advisory board, some of the names are familiar to you probably, and these are all within Ag Econ and other departments that help establish markets all locally and within the state as well. So we feel we've got the right mix of Board of Directors, advisory boards. Our goal of the Starkville Community Market is to give local farmers, artists, and craftsmen the portal through which their goods can be showcased and purchased. Most farmers markets, as we see today, are strictly farmer-driven. We understand that to get a better reflection of who we are as a culture of who we are, we want to include craftsmen and artists as well. And the key component with this is that we want to celebrate quality with this market. And so this, we have a considerable application process, rules and regulations that are in your packet, that are on your desk, that were given to you earlier, in which we have a very thorough checklist of application steps in which we consider where the individual's from, how they manufacture the product, and other things, so that once they come to the market, we know, and potential buyers know without a shadow of a doubt that they are getting quality in what they're coming to the market with. And then, and we've got a couple of other things here. Integrate produce, arts, and crafts. With this diversity, we understand that we have this brings the magic to the market, the experience to the market, and in a lot of different ways, as you can see with different images and color. Integrating the market with downtown Starkville. This goes back to the aspect of integrating within public spaces. We've looked at several locations across the city, and we feel that downtown Starkville is one of the most accessible locations within the city of Starkville. Accessible from an ADA standpoint, pardon me, accessible from but most importantly, accessible from ranges of ethnic groups, cultures, and class. And we feel that downtown Starkville could utilize the energizing aspect of a market in several different ways, and so that's why we're stressing to have it downtown. Integrating age classes, cultures, and ethnic groups. This goes into the accessibility aspect because we want this market to really celebrate who we are as Starkville. We have ethnic groups, we have different classes, obviously, and we want to be able to highlight that and speak to all of those. And then finally, integrate local vendors and cultures with the people of Starkville and the surrounding areas. We as a culture have gotten away from who we are as how we integrate ourselves with our local produce, and we don't have a way right now to really connect back to that. And so this will be the portal through which, as we go back and respect our central goal of giving these local farmers and artists and craftsmen the ability to sell and reach the local neighborhoods. The details for the market. Our location will be South Lafayette Street, and that's why we're here today to ask for the closing of South Lafayette Street between Main Street and Lampkin. So it's one block east of where we're sitting right now. Our opening date will be June 14th, so it's next Saturday. Closing date will be October 25th, which is the last Saturday in October. We want to tie that market in with the Halloween celebrations. Frequency will be every Saturday morning from 7 to 11. The cost will be $10 a day for each vendor. And again, we'll have an application process. Those applications must be in by Wednesday of that week so we can certify the quality of the product. Marketing and promotions, we have websites, blogs, Facebooks. We've got extremely active marketing branches, I guess I should say. Different ways of reaching different groups of people because we're reaching young students at the university through different portals. We do have challenges. Funding is one, growers are another, because we realize, I didn't realize when I started this a year ago that I figured there'd be more farmers in Ottaway County than there are, but we're really trying to push the local aspect of this, and the local mom and pop guys are the one that are really coming out of the woodwork here, if you will, and really helping to add the diversity to the market. So those are the details. This is a site plan for the market, and you can see it. This is all in your packet. You get a better representation of this in your packet probably. You can see Main Street to the north, Lampkin Street to the south. We're showing in this a vendor space is 30 feet by 10 feet. So it's 30 feet of curb footage and 10 feet out into the street. And what this gives us is a 10 by 10 tent, 10 foot by 10 foot tent with a 20-foot truck or a vehicle. Because we understand some of our vendors want to bring their van in here. Maybe Tomato Farms, for instance, wants to celebrate the fact that he's got his van and a tomato on the side of his van. With that configuration, we have 17 tents in that. The northernmost tent is our market management tent, which will block the street and keep traffic off the street. The southernmost tent is a movable tent that's for music and vendors and other things, which is completely acoustic types of atmosphere. So we have key parts of the market on each side of the street to help energize it. The sidewalks will be left open. There will be no motorized vehicular traffic on this. We will close the street down at 6 o'clock. And well, from 6 to 7, vendors can come in and park. And they're the only access that can happen within the time frame of 6 to 7. The market will start at 7, and no one can leave until 11 o'clock. Another interesting part in this, we've had some questions about parking. But within 1/10 of a mile of this location, the center point of this road, we have 245 public parking places. So parking is not a real issue because we have parking in 3 different municipal lots as well as on the street frontage. Here's what we're asking for today. We're asking for the in-kind services of closing South Lafayette Street from 5 a.m. to noon, every Saturday from June 14th to October 25th. And from 5 to noon will give us enough time to one, clean up the market after it closes at 11 and prepare the street for the vendors to come in from between 5 and 6. Our opening day is June 14th. This will be a soft opening. Our grand opening celebration will be June 28th. And so we're asking for police presence, most particularly on the first day, because this is the first time the market has occurred. We just want to be sure that nobody pulls in the street. And that's the only thing that we're asking for in the way of police presence. Banners, we're working with different types of individuals. We're working with some people on campus, some graphic designers, and we know that the city had banners, horizontal banners on light poles downtown. And so we're asking for the chance to be able to put banners on the 4 corner post light poles on the corners of Main Street and Lampkin Street that showcase our logo and say that the market is meeting. 2-yard trash containers provided by the sanitation department. We've met with them. They have some sanitation. In order to meet with their codes, we want to use the bags that they use. We want to be sure that we are able to facilitate the trash and other type things as best as we can. And then the last thing is patience, because again, we're asking for, I don't know what kind of in-kind service this is, but in a pun of it being an agricultural market, we're setting the seed here, and this thing has to grow and take off. Because I truly think if we're our best on opening day, we failed, because this thing has to grow and mature in the way of its own. Many people have been a key part of this, and several of you have played integral parts of this. City of Starkville department heads, the Department of Agriculture has been a key component of this in helping us set the framework so that we can be one of the first certified farmers markets in the state. The Geo Resources Institute, which is where I'm employed, Mississippi State Community Action Team, Extension Service. The Greater Starkville Development Partnership is our fiscal agent, and so we are umbrellaed under their 501c3 status, so from a charitable donation organization, and from their insurance perspective. And so we have a signed MOU that's in your packet. We're finalized on that, and so we're in place and we're covered from insurance perspectives. Many other civic organizations and the merchants on South Lafayette, and you'll see that most of the merchants on, we have letters of support in place that are in front of you, but most of the merchants on South Lafayette Street are doing everything they can to not only capitalize on the fact that the market will be there, but help us celebrate the fact of what we're doing with the market. So they've been key components of this. I do want to direct, you've got the packet, you've got your packets, but there are also things on your table that include the signed MOU. You've got the additional letters of support, and then our website. And so at this time, I want to open it for questions, but I also ask that you move toward the granting of our, I apologize for this, approval of what we're here asking for in the way of in-kind services. So are there any questions?
We have 17 booths.
At this point, that's at the maximum. If everybody wants to come in and pull their F-350 dually 4-door truck in and put a 10x10 tent at the back end of that, that's with everybody doing that. But obviously, we can accommodate more. That's at a maximum.
How many do you have signed up now that are coming?
We've got 7 right now.
8.
8.
8 today.
And I had a central goal starting this a year. The Baton Rouge Farmers Market, Chris Campany is the one who started the Baton Rouge Farmers Market, and he's on our board. They started the Baton Rouge Market with 6. And so I had 6 as a goal. And if I could beat them the way they started, and they're now a world, a nationally known market. And so I think we're off to a good start.
Sounds good.
Mr. Mayor and Board, and of course I know that all of us want to commend Jeremiah and Tammy for the extensive amount of work that they have done on this project, as well as all the people and organizations that were listed on the screen. Interesting project, a worthwhile project, and we look forward to it being successful.
Thank you.
In light of that, and after the presentation, I would go on and move that we approve the in-kind services, including patience.
Good.
You remember Boards of Aldermen can
That may
approve
be a first.
anything, including patience, to allow the closing of the street from the times indicated, the police presence on the, at least the first market, and as necessary thereafter, the sanitation department contributions to the market, and so forth, and with so forth.
Jeremiah, you and Tammy have done a very, very thorough job, and so I'd like to second.
Thank you.
So do we have a second?
I just second.
Just a second.
I just heard you say that they did a good job. I didn't hear that. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you, Jeremiah.
Thank you.
The next presentation, I believe, Jim, you're up on a $200,000 grant for emergency sirens.
I'm only accompanying Mr. Britton to give him credit because he initiated this grant and he found out about it and brought it to my attention and then is coming forward with it. So it's entirely his good work that did this, and I just want to make sure he gets the all due credit. But he has all the information, so I'm going to bow out, but I want to make sure he's.
I see that is 5% in-kind match.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Board, good to see y'all again. I appreciate you taking time to let me visit with you tonight. And as you've probably seen, this is a funding opportunity available for the city of Starkville, made possible by Section 404 of the Stafford Act, and it deals with the post-Katrina Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. And under this, there are several projects that could qualify, but certainly two stood out that the city of Starkville had inquired about over the years and would worked over the years trying to move forward with it. One was generators for critical facilities. We'd looked at generators for the fire station, possibly City Hall, wherever you felt like it might be. That qualifies under this project. Another one that the city was interested in was outdoor warning siren to add more coverage, get better coverage, and do a better job of warning the citizens of the city of Starkville. Both of these qualify under this hazard mitigation grant program. This is the first time I've ever seen that we've been able to get it down to a 5% local match. 75% federal funding, 20% state, 5% local. That 5% local can be in-kind services, work, or if you choose, it could be a cash contribution. But this is the first time that we've been able to work this hazard mitigation grant program down to that low match at the local level. Normally it's 75-25. And it would require significant investment. We've got it down to 5% local match, and it can use in-kind local services for the 5% match.
Excellent. We'll make a motion.
I would move then, Mr. Mayor, that the city approve participation with Octavio County in the acquisition of this grant, and that the city work out the details of furnishing its share of the 5% in-kind match.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. Good to see y'all again.
Good to see you too. I think y'all are up now. Yes. You have a question?
Yeah, I got here a little late for the citizens' comment.
Yeah, but that's over with now,
Yeah,
okay?
but I still like to know about the minute.
Well, you're out of order right now, okay? We're ready for our next, presentation, please.
What we're gonna do. Oh, I'm not on here, but Lynn told me to go ahead and, as a member of the group. I think roughly a year and a half ago, Mayor and Board, that y'all did appoint a committee, a beautification committee, with, I think, Clyde Williams and I as co-chairman. I'd like to change that a little bit. I think we have probably 5 co-chairmen now. But I think that we've kind of hit a wall. We really didn't know where we were going, except backwards at the speed of light, so to speak. And I noticed that roughly 3 or 4 weeks ago that the article in the paper about the ladies from the Town and Country Garden Club cleaning up behind some of the buildings here in town. It occurred to me at that time that there's probably a lot of groups doing some things, but nobody knows what each other's doing. It's rather fragmented. So with that in mind, I thought I would go ahead and call a good number of people, and golly, they came out of the woodwork, so to speak, to a meeting that we had last week. In fact, Richard Corey came in as Alderman, and in fact, after he came, I had a call from Rodney Lincoln admonishing me why wasn't he invited. But I quickly put him on the list, as Sharon Boyd also gave me a stern lecture about why she wasn't invited. You bet I put her on the list too. But what we have here now, ladies and gentlemen, is a more or less something, it's expansion of our beautification committee. And I think more and more people are buying into this. And we don't know exactly where we're going yet, but I think the more people we have, the more ideas we can bring forward and perhaps help, again, as our objective, make Starkville a more attractive place to live and so on and so forth. So with that in mind, that's all I wanted to say, and I hope that this meets your approval to have an expansion of this beautification committee. And so I ask for your approval in this regard.
Is that what Milo and,
Oh, they're going to talk bad to you.
Well, you need to bring us a proposal in regard to what
Well,
you want to
I just now, it's a verbal situation. You want a written statement?
do. Well, we need one, yeah.
Yeah.
Run the city by policy, write it out, so if somebody 5 years down the road wants to disagree, that policy that you implemented here.
Okay, well, I will submit you a policy then.
Excellent.
Not a proposal, a request. It's not really a proposal, we just want to expand the group.
Well, bring it in, tell us what you want to do, we'll go from there.
Just now did, but I'll put it on a sheet of paper. Thank
Well,
you.
you talked about, but you give me any specifics that we want to go from 5, 7, or 8, or 9, or 10.
I feel like I volunteered for KP or
Well,
latrine duty here,
That's
but
the reason we wrung your arm to get you to volunteer for this.
in December, the Beautification Committee concluded their year by making some recommendations to you, Mr. Mayor, and the board. And it was the feeling of the meeting of the Beautification Committee at its last meeting that these recommendations be re-presented to the mayor and the board to keep them in mind, or to refresh your memory of what was brought before you. And these recommendations came in 4 general areas, one of them being infrastructure. And the recommendation was to establish a clear and reasonable list of priorities for resurfacing existing streets and constructing new streets, and ensure that such work includes drainage and landscaping considerations. That you move forward with placing utility lines underground, beginning immediately with those streets in established neighborhoods that do not fall under ordinances covering new subdivisions. That you begin now, for both safety and aesthetic reasons, to stripe main thoroughfares. And that you place sidewalks on rights of way on Martin Luther King Drive from at least Jackson Street to Henderson School. Under the category of recycling, the Beautification Committee recommended that you establish an active citywide recycling program in order to reduce the cost of landfills and transportation costs, and to integrate recycling schedules with garbage pickup schedules. And that you make available at least quarterly a drop-off location where citizens can place hazardous wastes. In the area of support, we ask that you emphasize regularly at the mayoral and the board level the city's commitment to having a cleaner, more attractive city and more attractive public places, and that you allocate up to 5% of all construction and renovation costs of city buildings for artwork, fountains, and other aesthetic enhancements to improve the appearance of the interiors and exteriors of these structures. And in the last area of cooperative activities, we ask that you support the Beautification Committee and the Starkville Daily News' efforts to recognize individual commercial establishments for landscaping and other aesthetic enhancements to their property, and that you support the committee's efforts this year to, and in future years, should we continue, to encourage greater MSU student participation in helping to make Starkville a cleaner, more attractive place. These recommendations were submitted in December. You have them on the books. I have another copy here that I can give to Tammy. And this was only to serve as a reminder and to refresh these recommendations in your minds, particularly as we move into a new budget year. Thank you very much.
In answer to that, a lot of those issues are in process at the present time.
We hope.
And I would like to remind you that when we took office, that we spent quite a bit of money in trying to renovate this particular place with what we could. So a lot of the issues that you raise are very sensitive issues to the board and the department heads, and we're trying to make the kind of progress that we can on the amount of money that we have to operate.
We appreciate that. And, but I suspect that we will also continue to represent these areas which we feel
We
need.
understand that. That was
Okay.
one of the reasons that we set the committee up.
All right.
If I may, Milo, one of
Yeah.
the points you touched on was sidewalk, especially on MLK, and kind of in regards to sidewalks in general. I think we're currently in the process of revising our subdivision ordinance. Is that correct, Ben? To hopefully start requiring sidewalks in new development. I won't fix MLK, but hopefully that'll help prevent some of those same problems from occurring.
Well, if we bring up some of these items out of ignorance, then that's generally because there is information or activity going on to which we do not have knowledge. And therefore, if, if we had complete knowledge, which I hope we will. All right, thank you. Do you have anything you want to say?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Support.
Hey, Dr. Walker, we always appreciate you coming to board.
That's right.
And your participation.
Okay, that brings us down to mayor's business and, pardon? One of the items that, we didn't do in regard to the Lafayette Street and the community market was the approval of the waiver of the associated, event fees in accordance to the sponsorship application. We did not get that in.
I understand that. I was gonna do that after we get the consent agenda, approving this other thing, making it one event instead of a series, because the money was different on each one, and the board hadn't formally approved it.
Down on board business, we're down to consideration. Randy, I think it's your turn. City of Starkville determining the necessity for invoking authority granted municipalities with respect to tax incentive financing.
Okay, I have Mark Castleberry here with me as well. Randy Wall, I think all of you know me. We have a resolution that we're presenting for consideration. That the resolution essentially will do two things. It will declare your intent to go forward with the creation of a tax increment financing district, but then set a hearing for consideration of that approval of the TIF plan, tax increment financing plan, for a date. I'm trying to remember what date we had proposed in there. It's proposed for June 17th, which we do have time for that publication. So, be glad to answer any questions you may have.
So just for clarification purposes, I know people have been asking about this interest in TIF bonding. What you're asking for is in essence a public hearing at our next meeting.
That's correct.
To actually discuss this with the public and try to answer any questions about it.
That is correct.
Other questions?
At that meeting, will y'all actually have a presentation of what it is you're specifically proposing?
Yes, we can have that, and what you have right now that's on file with the city is you have the proposed tax increment financing plan that is available if anyone wants to look at it. Of course, I think y'all probably have access to that, but anyone else that wants to look at it can have access to that plan.
But I think what we're looking for, perhaps, as, that would be part of the public hearing, is an actual presentation that would be for, of course, us as well as for the public, of what the project is, what you're requesting, and those type of things. So it's not just having
Right.
a binder somewhere, it actually
Right.
would be a.
I'm
shown up
assuming you want that
presentation.
at that time, though, instead of now.
Correct.
If I'm correct, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, then I would move adoption of a resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, determining the necessity for and invoking the authority granted to municipalities by the legislature with respect to tax increment financing, as set forth in Chapter 45 of Title 21, Mississippi Code of 1972, as amended, determining that the Middleton Marketplace project is a project eligible for tax increment financing, that a public hearing be conducted in connection with the tax increment financing plan and for related purposes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you on the 17th. Next item is consideration of call for a public hearing of repealing and replacing the city's false alarm ordinance for the purpose of revisiting the fine structure to incorporate a separate fine. There you are.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
Essentially, what we're trying to do is take this current city's false alarm ordinance and make it match our resolution showing the fine schedule. And you have in your packet, you have the current, you have the current and the proposed. And under the penalty, it is simply talking about 3 false alarms. We've gone to $150 for the first offense that goes beyond the warnings, as opposed to the first offense being $300. And the administrative hearing officer this morning, it went very well in there, and she implemented those, but I wanted to make sure that the ordinance references that and does not talk about an amount, so that she'll have the latitude to work with her fine schedule that's in the resolution that she's using for her
Any
project.
questions?
Ms. Pruitt, we thought about going on and recommending this for consent, but given the fact that it is a public hearing.
Sure.
Being called for, given the fact that the public or segments of the public have been very much interested in this, we were hoping that the media would publicize this call for the public hearing, so thus not on consent.
Absolutely. It's just simply to make this ordinance match what we're doing in the resolution, so that they're not in any kind of conflict.
Can we also take the opportunity just to give an update on where we are with the ordinance, a number of tickets we've written and/or
Oh,
just to give an
sure.
update? We've had it for a little over a year now.
Sure.
At the public hearing.
At the public hearing.
Sure,
Just
no problem.
no more than a couple minutes.
I'll do my best. I'll make a note to do that, yes.
So do we have a motion on this item?
I would move that we call for a public hearing. This is at the next board meeting, for discussion of repeal and replacement of the city's false alarm ordinance for the purpose in the main of, but not necessarily excluding anything else, bringing the fine structure in conformance with the resolution establishing the hearing officer and related fines.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion with a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you. The next item is to make an appointment to the Parks Commission. I believe we have one person that is applied, that's Pete Melby. I don't think Pete's here tonight.
Mayor and Board, with Pete as a constituent of mine, it would be my honor to recommend him for the position and make a formal motion appointing him to the Park Commission.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Next item is consent. Consideration of appointing a voting delegation with 2 alternates for the Mississippi Municipal League 2008 elections. We'll show of hands of those that plan on going. Got everybody going.
3, 4, 5, 6 of them? Oh.
Mayor and Board, if no one else is interested, I would be willing to serve in that capacity.
Ms. Elf, would you be willing to serve too?
No.
No.
Two alternates, Mayor.
I think one with 2 alternates.
That's mine.
And Mr. Mayor and Board, just a word of comment. The election process at the Municipal League meeting has been fraught with some difficulty over the last several years. This is an effort by the Municipal League to tighten up their policies, procedures, and processes relative to municipal elections. Previously, the Starkville delegation would caucus, if you will, and determine how the city would vote. I would still assume we would probably caucus, but one person would actually be designated to cast the city's vote.
And since we're talking about caucusing, can we go on and say we're not gonna vote for Charlie Dumas, that sorry mayor from down south Mississippi?
We probably need to have understanding of
That's
that.
his
So we need 2 alternates. Who would, Ms. Elf, would you be willing to be an alternate?
If I have to, but I'm
And
really
Rodney,
not
would you like to be
interested.
an alternate? All right. Do we have a motion that those will be our selections?
I would move we appoint Alderman Richard Corey as the city's voting delegate to cast the vote determined by a caucus of attendees at the meeting, and that Alderman Self and Alderman Lincoln be designated alternate first and
You're gonna be the first.
second. Ms. Self says that Alderman Lincoln will be first and she
Yes,
will
I'll
be
be
second,
second.
so
Thank you.
in that order.
Do we have a second to this motion?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Doug, give us an update on the sweeping of Highway 12.
I talked to Glenn this afternoon, and he was able to work out an agreement with MDOT where we can sweep from 3 AM to 6:30 AM without any traffic control assistance from them, which is good, because it streamlines what we have to do without having to report another agency personnel, so that's a good thing. According to Glenn, it took 4 of these morning sweeps to kind of get that section of highway into acceptable shape. And what he's doing now is he comes in every morning, just drives around town looking at things, and when he sees it's in need of sweeping again, he'll go ahead and schedule it on an as-needed basis.
Head Beautification Committee confided in me that he thought that was a great idea, Rodney, and also wanted to know why we didn't take Highway 182 and do the same thing with it. With the street sweeper. Is that a possibility?
Is that feasible?
Well, yeah, I mean, we could do that, just might push out, how often we sweep the rest of the city. We can certainly do it.
And certainly take some overtime.
All right, thank you, Doug.
Overtime, we can avoid it.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay, thank you.
Office of the City Clerk, request approval of the City of Starkville claims docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the City of Starkville claims docket as of May 28, 2008.
Do we have a second?
Mr. Gibson, it seemed like a little delay on it. Everything is legal according to the laws of the state of Mississippi and the claims docket, to your knowledge.
Yes, it is.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Hold up your hands. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. All those opposed? Got 4 against. What's y'all's opposition? Speak up.
AIB. Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am?
I would like to know,
I'm kinda interested.
because we are responsible for paying the bills, not the city clerk. We are ultimately responsible, so if there's a problem with it, I would like to know what it is.
Richard, what's your problem?
It's my understanding, and please let any alderman correct me if I'm wrong, that there was 1 or 2 items that were park commission related that were not supposed to be on the claims docket, that were outside of the loan which we're paying back.
Why don't we delete those items and then approve the docket?
Can you tell me what page?
Mr. Mayor,
Page 1.
You have a question, Mr. Perkins?
why is there always an issue with the city clerk when she comes down here to present the claims docket? I mean, what's the big problem? Either pay the bills or not pay the bills. I mean, there's always an issue when we get to this part of the agenda.
Roy,
If they don't want to pay it, then they need to say they don't want to pay it, or just let's go ahead and not pay the city bills or pay the city's bills.
I think the issue here is that after much debate over several meetings of the past, that there continue to be claims dockets on the part of the city park other than the bonds. Is that not correct?
Okay, on these 3 items, this account number that Alderman Corey mentioned, this account number is a due to from the park. So this amount is due to the city from the park.
Which item are you talking about?
The 3 items that you said listed on the front page, that's the account number
Should be 4
that
items.
the city set up so that the park commission could repay the city. And what we will do is, we will bill the park commission for these invoices. But if those are the only 3, if those are the only 3 items,
Why
then I
then
would.
would those items be on a claims docket, which is in payment of city bills,
That's
not a
right, instead of not
ratification
receiving.
of
Okay.
accounts receivable?
For one reason, when we tried to, there were still some kinks in the system as trying to separate the park bills from the city bill when we enter them into the computer. Now, we are trying to work the kinks out, but on occasion, there will probably be, until we can get it situated where nothing from the park show. That's why the docket itself looks different. That's why it is not broken down into individual departments. Because in an effort to show the board what they want, and that is nothing from the park, we had to run the docket a different way. So you don't have a summary total for each department. It's listed by invoices. And some of the invoices showed up from the park. The only other thing that we could have done was showing you the docket that we normally printed, which would have showed you everything, including the park commission, because that's the way accounts payable system is set up.
So what you're saying is this shows as income coming from the park to the city.
This shows, right, and these
And
three
his
bills will
question
be.
is, why is it on the claims docket? Because claims are usually monies that go from the cities to other purposes.
Because the city, the park will reimburse these from the city. The park will reimburse the city for these bills
But
that we
that's
pay.
on claims, and that's not a claim. That's a claims on the park of the park, but not of the city.
Mr. Mayor, is there anything unlawful about it being on, my question is, or maybe to the city attorney, if I have the floor. Mr. Mayor, actually, city attorney question. Mr. Favor, is there anything illegal or unlawful about that matter being on the claims docket in regard to Ms. Gibson's explanation? In other words, they're seeking money back from the park commission due to the city. Is there anything against the law about that?
I can't speak to whether or not.
To your knowledge?
To my knowledge, as I sit here right now,
Yes,
and
sir.
ask that question, I don't know specifically whether or not you can, there's anything illegal to put on a claims docket, a invoice that's supposed to be paid, reimbursed. But that's not the way the claims docket is supposed to be set up,
But my
number one.
question is there anything illegal to your knowledge? That's my question.
I haven't researched that issue, and I can't tell you that, but can't tell you if there is right now. But I can tell you that's not the way we set up the procedure.
That was my question.
Well, I'm just
I mean,
trying to answer for you.
everything else is policy decision. I just want to know your legal opinion.
I don't know of anything illegal that says about a claims docket off the top of my head.
Thank you, Mr. Favor.
Emma, normally I'm one of the first people to actually recommend approval of the claims docket. I'm sorry you having to go through this. And it's not in any way, shape, or form a slight against the Park Commission. It's just a matter of legality and wanting to make sure that we're not breaking the law. And so, if need be, just to get through here, and I would recommend the city attorney to please research this so we can have an answer to this question once and for all. I would move approval of the claims docket minus the Park Commission items on page 1.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
We have a second to that motion that we remove the claim, we approve the claims docket with removal of the Parks Commission items. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Have a
You
comment or two.
want to comment?
Ms. Emma, just a comment or two. In this format presented, we are unable to compare departments against budgets. We are unable to do a variety of things that we're supposed to be checking to ensure that claims presented and approved do not exceed budgeted amounts. They're blanks scattered all the way through this claims docket. We're just still not there yet at all in what we originally set up, which the city's accountant said was a simple process.
Emma,
Excuse me, let me rephrase that. The city's auditor said was a simple process.
We have a motion and a second.
Emma, it's also my understanding part of this problem is due to our software. Is that correct? In being able to separate all these things out and properly sort through them.
This, what you have in front of you is the only way that we could because obviously there are claims on here for the park, present to you without the entire docket for the park. The only thing else would be to present it the way it has normally been presented and ask you to disregard the park. But it would show the park. It would show the park docket in its entirety.
Well, if need be, then I'm willing to work with y'all, looking for some new software, something that can help organize this a little better so we don't have to keep kind of running into the same problem.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Those opposed? Passes. Thank you. The electric department. Hello, Edward.
Good afternoon. Mayor and board, for several months now, we've had under construction and in assembly line a new bucket truck that was approved, purchased by the board. Last week, received a call from the manufacturer, Altech Incorporated in Birmingham, notifying us that they were at the stage in the assembly process where they wanted us to be able to come to the plant and do an inspection of the vehicle to ensure that all of our requirements were met in the construction of this vehicle. I received that call, I believe, on Wednesday. And I called the mayor's office and notified the mayor's office of the request by the manufacturer. And we decided that it would be prudent for me to go over there and do an inspection of this vehicle and then come before the board at this board meeting and request ratification of the trip. And that is what I'm asking for. It was a matter of either going and making sure that all items and all requirements of the sale were made, or accepting what any errors that might be once we receive the vehicle.
Any of you have questions?
How much was the cost of the trip?
We spent about a half tank of gas, $40.
Did you go on that new vehicle?
I did. Went over there, inspected the truck, and came back.
Mayor and board move approval of the out-of-state travel.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those, let's do a show of hands. All those in favor, please show your hands, raise your hands. All those opposed? It passes, thank you, Ed. Brings us down to, personnel. It brings us down to the executive session in which we need to have vote in closed session to discuss issues that would be for pending litigation, potential litigation.